Welcome to Wine Soundtrack South Africa. Listen to the passion with which producers narrate their winery and their world. In 30 answers, discover their stories, personalities, and passions.
Hello, friends and listeners of Wine Soundtrack. This is Marina Kalo, and today I'm sitting with Johann Fourie from Benguela Cove Vineyards out in Walker Bay. Welcome, Johann. Can you tell me a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Nice to be here. We're situated out in the Walker Bay region, which is close to a small town called Hermanus. For most of you that have been to South Africa, it's likely that if you've been to Cape Town, the second most populated or popular spot would be Hermanus, I guess. So it's known for its whales, its food scene, but more importantly, its wines. So it's what is seen as a cool climate growing region, obviously with its proximity to the ocean. And yeah, we've been there. The farm, Benguela Cove, has been around since the early 2000s, the vineyards. But it's only until recently, 2017, we did our first harvest and really kick-started the brand, which is Benguela Cove. So still new, but lots of exciting stuff happening and that we're busy with at the moment. I joined 2016 in preparation in getting the winery ready, doing the first vintage, getting the winery up and running. So just now starting to feel like things are slowly but surely falling into place.
Yeah, it's been incredible driving past there on that road and seeing how that estate has developed, because it's a housing estate as well. It's kind of one of those lifestyle estates, and seeing the vineyards really maturing over a period of time, it's really wonderful to see how that specific little part of the world has grown and developed and evolved over the years. Tell me, how many hectares are under vine at the moment?
Yeah, so we've got the entire property is 220 hectares, of about 70 is planted with vines and then a little bit of olives as well. As you said, it initially started back then as a housing or real estate development with some vineyards, until the current owner, which is a lady called Penny Streeter, and her husband Nick took ownership of the property, and it shifted a bit from being a real estate development to now being a full-on vineyard, a winery with some property. So there's some open land, some beautiful sections on the property that's not suited for growing vines that they've allocated into plots, so people can actually go and buy themselves a little spot in and amongst, somewhere between the ocean and the vineyards. Through your back window you can find yourself a little spot on the property should you wish.
Yeah, and the winery itself offers so much. There's putt-putt or mini golf, and there's a restaurant. I often get notifications of events and things that are hosted at the winery, and it seems that you're really trying to pull together some excellent wine tourism activities. So that's really obviously a big focus for you.
Yeah, the Walker Bay Hermanus has become such a popular destination for various reasons, but especially more recently as a wine destination. And Benguela Cove being right on the entrance to the bigger Hermanus region, so we're basically the first winery or the gateway into the bigger Walker Bay wine region. We get a lot of tourists, and we love having people over and showing them what we're about and sharing what we're doing. So when it came to doing the tourist facility, initially I thought it was too big. Penny built 2 massive car parks, and we said, wow, this is quite ambitious, but she said just build a car park and the people will come, and she was quite right. So it's unbelievable how the word of mouth in such a small time span as 5 years have got out to it now being packed every weekend. And so we go the extra mile in making it special with various pairing offerings, salad tours, blending your own bottle of wine, taking people with safari buckies through the vineyards to just show them what's happening that time of the year in the vineyard. Obviously, because of the beautiful location, very popular for weddings, lots of conferences we have. And then, being a tourist or a family destination, I myself both myself and my wife is in the wine industry, so we like to visit farms, but with 2 kids it's kind of impossible because they take the place apart and not all wineries are kid friendly. So at that time, and Penny and Nick also have a big family with grandchildren, so I said let us be the family destination. So we're very child friendly, so we've got a lot of offerings for kids. So while mom and dad is sipping on their favorite glass of wine, the kids are happy, the parents are happy, everyone is happy. And while we thought we just catering for everyone, we just went and made it pet friendly as well. So you can literally bring the whole family along.
I think that's absolutely great. And your cellar, I have to mention, because in my mind it is one of the sexiest cellars out there. It has numerous beautiful, huge crystal chandeliers hanging in the cellar. It's quite spectacular and state of the art as well. What's it like working in that facility?
Yeah, it's a quite a special winery, again, for various reasons. I was fortunate enough to be involved from the get-go. I was working with the grapes coming from the property prior to joining them full-time. So that's how I got on board, was just to have someone with a bit of experience of the vineyard to help with the winery layout. So I was just involved in the process flow, the various equipment we needed. So as one does when you build a new winery, you equip it with what is the latest and state-of-the-art equipment. But I also like experimenting and trying out new things and pushing boundaries. So yes, there's whatever was the latest and newest in terms of technology, but it's also a whole mixed bag of various things. And we've also gone and installed equipment that was available to winemakers 300-400 years ago, just to see the influence of the winery and the winery equipment. So it's a big experimental winery, and we learn a lot. We share a lot with that of what we learn. We bring in students every year to come and do their research projects. So it's as I said, it's a big experimental winery. We are nicknamed by many fellow winemakers as the test tube winery, just because there's so much things going on. But so fortunate to be involved in all of that. But Penny, the owner, had a final touch to the winery in that she installed 6 larger-than-life chandeliers in the winery. So it's got Penny's touch on it. So yeah, you need to come and check it out for yourself.
It really is very, very sexy. Tell me, what is your annual production at the moment?
So the entire farm produces about 650 tons, of which we process about 500 at the moment, given our current capacity. So we expect the larger winery to process all of that, but at the moment we're just bringing in 500 because we've got some long-term grape contracts for selling grapes. That was prior to us starting out, which we're obviously honoring. And so we crush about 450 tons, of which at the moment we do about 25,000 cases of 12 bottles is what we're currently selling, and obviously growing that year on year.
And then what does your range look like, more or less?
Yeah, so we, starting a new brand, there's obviously lots of decisions to be made. One of the very first and easiest ones that we made, and that was because I had prior experience of working with this property, is that because of its location right there on the ocean's edge, it does have a very strong maritime feel to the wines, but also climate-wise, it's completely different from anything else from the Western Cape that I've ever worked with. So very different in terms of what you get from Hemel en Aarde, which is on the one side of us, completely different from Botrivier, very different from Elgin. So it's just an animal of its own that's got a style and a character of its own that shows in the wines. So from the get-go, we decided only to produce estate wines. Estate wines, I guess, a little bit of a dying breed in that it's become so common and so easy to go and buy fruit from other regions and to blend that into your wines. Obviously nothing wrong with that, but for us that want to produce estate wines, we are quite fortunate with the property Benguela in that we've got 5 different soil types. And what they quite cleverly did when they established the farm was to plant all the grape varietals on all the different soil types. But then to add to that, we've also, the whole property is like a bell-shaped property. So we've got south, east, north, western facing slopes. And not only did they plant the different grape varietals on different soil types, but also on different slopes. So we've got this massive diversity with our fruit source and components, because obviously, let's say Syrah planted on different soils and on different slopes, different row directions, all give you different components. So I just made a calculation the other day with all our variables, with our fruit source, just from the one property, we can make as much as 340 different Syrahs. The other one I used was Sauvignon, 360 different Sauvignon Blancs. So that's the reason why we can make estate wines with enough complexity and layers. But because of all this the differences in the grapes, we also, if we just blend them all together, we lose out in some of those, the beauty of all those differences. So we've split the range in two, in that we've got a lighthouse collection, which is those vineyards, it's more vibrant, fruitier, softer acidities in terms of the whites. The reds, more upfront fruit, softer, rounded tannins, wines that can be released younger. They go into the lighthouse tier. Then our second label is our estate label, which is those vineyards and soil types that the wines are a little bit more structured, maybe a little bit more tannic, needs longer time in barrel or in bottle, and released a little bit later. So not a quality difference so much, but stylistically they're a bit different. So we just split the two ranges.
Well, I think, it's amazing listening to this and thinking back to where it began and hearing what the vision was of Penny back then, and to hear what you're saying now. It's incredible, as you say, in such a short space of time. Tell me, other than obviously in South Africa, what other markets are you active or presently exporting to?
Yeah, so it wasn't by design. It just happened to, when we started selling, exports just moved much quicker than the domestic market. Our major but markets at this moment would be China, which many people don't know this, but Benguela Cove is the biggest selling wine in the Chinese online space. So it's massive for us, obviously, with the big move towards buying goods online. So China is our leading market, followed by the US, UK, Belgium, Holland. That will be our big five. And then obviously there's a few smaller ones like Switzerland, Germany, Botswana, Malawi. Surprise, is doing really well for us. So yes, still exploring all the new markets, but those are the big five and the most important ones for us at the moment.
So Johann, how did you get into winemaking, and do you have a specific memory, a relevant memory that kind of brought wine to life in your mind?
Yeah, so the bug kind of got hold of me quite late on. I went studying general agriculture. I was always fascinated by plants, by insects, by pesticides and stuff, all things that normal farmers dislike. But I early on got a fascination with, what we call crop protection. So that's just protecting plants against natural elements. So I went studying that in Cape Town, and back then it was a dual course between Cape Town, UCT, and Elsenburg, which is an agricultural college in Stellenbosch. And then halfway through your studies, you move to Stellenbosch, where we're sitting now. And as one does when you're a student, you go around to all the wineries to go and taste wine. Obviously, because it's great fun, but also as a student, you're looking to get a glass of wine wherever you can find one. And at that stage, I had viticulture as a subject, and growing fruit and vegetables, everything that was, what I needed. And then as you go around to wine tastings, you figure out, but hang on, there's more to just growing grapes, there's also the wine-making side of that. And, always enjoying microbiology and chemistry and stuff. And that's exactly what winemaking is. It's microbiology, it's chemistry, but then it's also the opportunity to be creative, and every wine's got its own fingerprint on it. And I just thought, wow, this ticks all my boxes. And to be quite honest, it's much more exciting making or creating a wine out of grapes than growing apples and eating that when you get home. So, and that at that time it was very late in my studies, but there was no turning back. So I had to focus a bit, and I could still take on oenology as a subject. And I was very lucky in the end to get into the final year group that was that qualified to go and do what we called back then cellar technology, which is basically oenology, winemaking.
Wow, that is an interesting journey to take, and I must say you are one of the very well-known winemakers in our country, and you've certainly won a number of awards and done very well with your winemaking over the years, and you're definitely not an old guy by any stretch of the imagination, so there's quite a number of years left in you and what we can expect to see from your cellars. Do you have a wine that stands out in your memory that you've drunk from anywhere in the world that just like gave you goosebumps?
Oh goodness, you've caught me off guard now. If you ask me this 7 days of the week, I guess every day will have a different answer. I don't know, I'll get back to that one.
No,
There's so many.
There are many. I think it is a difficult question to answer, but then, do you believe in a perfect variety?
Difficult questions. It's difficult for me because I especially enjoy blending grape varietals, and thereby I'm not saying that there is not such a thing as a perfect grape. But if I had to take a stab at maybe one white and one red that I would see as, comes close to perfection, or that is the closest, I think on the red wine side it would be Cabernet. It's just got so much going from start to finish: power, elegance, finesse, depth, layers. It really has it all. And on the white, I guess it's a little bit easier to pick one that's the closest to perfection. That would be Chardonnay. For similar reasons, it's got both power and elegance to it. Yeah.
And then, as a consumer, what do you enjoy drinking? Red, white, sparkling wine? What is your kind of regime when it comes to wine drinking?
I would think that, let's say, 50% white, 10% sparkling, 40 red, but it's very seasonal, obviously. Depends on the season, the mood, the people, the food. I go through phases, so I'd go on to a Syrah craze for 2 months, and then I'll change and I'll go all into Chardonnay. And so there's always something that I'm studying or taking a deep dive into, but it's always wine. I'm not so much fascinated by spirit or gin or beers. I wish I could appreciate a good whiskey and stuff, but wine is my love and what you usually find me enjoying.
Yeah, it's your thing, clearly. Tell me, do you have an opinion on wine scoring competitions, wine critics? Do you think they have a place?
Yeah, they definitely have a place. There's so many examples of wine brands that built their reputation on accolades and critics and scores. If that is your thing and if that is your strategy and you manage to get it right, well done. It's a fast track to building a brand and getting your name out there. It's not everyone's strategy. Benguela Cove might be a good example where being in a cooler climate, wines, and where we enjoy a more lean, restrained, elegant style of wine. Those aren't necessarily, call them wine show styles and wines that perform in wine competitions. So it's not part of our strategy. So even though we don't enter into wine competitions so much, we do value wine critics and scores. So the difference is we get the opportunity to explain invite you to the farm, to show you the property, to explain the climate, what it is we're looking to achieve, and then based on that and in that context, you then judge, did we get it right or not? You know, so it's kind of important to explain our style, what it is we're looking to achieve, and to judge the wines in that context rather than just putting it into a competition. Having said that, there is one or two selected competitions that we do enter, where it's credible judges, it's people whose palates I respect, and if we get a gold or a double gold, fantastic, but that's not the main purpose of entering into these competitions. For me, it's a benchmarking exercise. So we do support local South African wine competitions, but it's also important to enter international ones for us because we're selling in an international space. We don't see the South Africans, our fellow wineries, necessarily as competition, because we're also up against the Australians, the Chileans, the Americans. So we want to be judged amongst them by credible judges, and if we get it right and it's a good result, fantastic, that's a good benchmarking exercise. If we fail, then it's even more important to take those failures and the no medals or the bronze medals to see where you need to improve on. So it's for benchmarking purposes, wine competitions is super important.
And tell me about your flagship wine. What is it? What is it made of, and what does it cost?
Yeah, so our flagship wine is a single vineyard wine called Catalina. It's a Semillon, and it's named after the Catalina aeroplanes that used the lagoon in front of Benguela Cove as their landing strip. So these planes could land onto the water, and there was a whole bunch of them, about 16 of them were based at Benguela Cove during the Second World War, which was their home base for patrolling the Cape of Good Hope, because there was a whole lot of German submarines that were taking out ships that were passing by to the east. So these guys were called in to take care of the submarine. So they were based there for 3 years during the Second World War. So it's just a tribute to them. It's a Semillon wine, and it's a white wine made with the intent of aging. So a lot of people say, "Oh, what horse are you saddling up? Semillon as a wine is a difficult sell. Now you're promoting it to be cellared, and you want to sell it as an aged white wine. It becomes even more difficult." But it's kind of in tune with how we like to do things. We don't always take the beat and track. We like a bit of a challenge. We like to do things a bit differently. Semillon, as most of you might know, is the white grape that ages the best. Benguela Cove is known for the wines because of the soil and the climate. They've got amazing longevity. So we took Semillon's ability to age and the wines coming from the property's ability to age and combined that to produce a white wine that needs to go 10, 12, 15 years and beyond to show its true beauty. It's getting a lot of attention now as a young wine. But we know the best is still to come. So we've also, in terms of selling it, we take a bit of a different approach. So we don't sell single bottles. We only sell them in sets of 3. So should you open one now, at least you've got 2 or 3 more in years to come to track the evolution. And it's all on allocation. So people build up a bit of a library. So the idea is that you have 3 bottles as a minimum of every vintage, to track the evolution and to follow this wine. So it's really a collector's item. It's a small production. It's a single vineyard, so we're unfortunately limited to how much we can produce, but a fun wine indeed.
And how much does a 3-pack cost?
A 3-pack is 1,800 for the 3 bottles.
Okay. So a UFO landed at Benguela Cove, full of aliens, and they've been on a very long journey through space. They are very thirsty. What would you pour them to drink?
I would imagine that this is these aliens are wine lovers, because how otherwise would they ended up at Benguela? And I would imagine or assume that they've then stopped at various wine regions across the world. So to make them feel at home, even though we don't grow one, I'll go find them one, is I think a pinotage would be fitting to show them what we're about and what we're capable of and what's unique to what we do in South Africa.
Very good. Do you have any good luck rituals or any things that you do when it comes to harvest time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if it's a good luck ritual, but something we definitely follow is, and I wish at some stage someone can capture all these stories within the wine industry that's being passed on over the years by the older generations, is to never start harvest on a Monday. That you don't do. You never, don't ask me why, you never eat fish prior to starting harvest. This is all old people's stories. And what else is there? There's a couple of things, but there's no special song and dance that we do prior to harvest, other than just blessing the grapes with a bit of the previous year's sparkling wine, and just to have a toast and get everyone into the spirit for the roller coaster that's ahead.
That's pretty cool. I definitely haven't heard the one about not eating fish before starting to harvest. That's a new one for me as well. When you're not working, what do you do in your free time?
Wine making or wine is such a hobby. It's not just a work. So free time is usually reading, although it's not always wine related, or sitting with a glass of wine. But we as a family are quite keen campers, so there's always planning going on for where's the next trip, what are we going to do. I myself enjoy it, unfortunately not as family sport, but a bit of kite surfing in summertime, winter a bit of cycling. But yeah, I'm not a big movie person or TV person, so it's always out and about doing something somewhere.
Fair enough. And sport-wise, do you support any sporting teams or tennis or motorsports or anything like that?
Yeah, so I love sports. So support local rugby teams, of course. You've mentioned tennis. I would plan my weekends around the French Open or Wimbledon or whatever it is that's on. I would most definitely plan my weekends, most recently, the last 2 years, around Formula One. So that's a big thing that got the whole Formula One bug got hold of me. But yeah, not so much, even though I would watch rugby and enjoy that, and cricket. It's not something I would plan my weekend around, if that kind of answers your question. But always love sport, love the underdogs, and yeah, love sport myself as well.
So if your favorite Formula One driver or favorite tennis player were to win either the F1 championship title or Wimbledon, which wine would you give them from your cellar to congratulate them with?
Oh goodness, I think our Jour de Vie, which is a Cup Classique, which is the joy of living or celebrating or having a good time, would be fitting, I would imagine, or maybe a magnum of our Coulage, the Bordeaux blend.
Some good options there, for sure. What would you say would be one of your most proudest professional achievements?
Wow. Mine, well, ones that I've been involved in, it was not a function of myself or something that I did myself, but thinking of highlights, and when we discussed wine competitions, that's one way of measuring yourself, I would, and your work, I would imagine, is at a previous winery, we, as a team, again, it was quite a, prior to joining this winery, backtracking a little bit, I was told by a previous boss, like, this winery is a sinking ship. It's not been performing, in terms of sales or quality for many years. Are you sure you want to do this? And that's something you don't tell me, because then I'll take it to the extra mile to make sure. That just drives me more than anything else. So from joining, I think it was then a couple of years into it, we went on to, which is the Veritas Wine Awards, which is arguably the most important one in South Africa, or the biggest one. We took, as a winemaking team at Veritas, we had 5 years running. We were the most successful winery on show, but also the 5th year we won the most successful winery. We also broke the record for the most gold and double gold medals. So that was quite a sweet moment. Another one would be the Young Wine Show, which is just a local show in South Africa. Also, in 1 year, we won both the best wine on show and the most successful producer on show. And moving a little bit closer to home now with Benguela, it's been so rewarding, and definitely a highlight of my career so far is to see how this brand is unfolding and where it's gone in a short span of time. And knowing that we're only scratching the surface, I think the career highlight is still to come.
That's very exciting and definitely something to look forward to for sure. What wines do you think will be drunk in the year 2300? How will they be different from what we're enjoying today?
2300, oh my goodness, I wish I knew. I would hope that they would be more focused, that more in terms of more stronger regionality in that regions or countries would focus on what they are good at and make them the best examples of the world, instead of all of us trying to do everything for everyone. And yeah, I mean, with climate change, who knows where it's gonna go, but I would, looking into the crystal ball, thinking ahead, I would think that they might just be coming from different parts of the world. Who knows where they would be. So hopefully not too much change, but definitely from different parts of the world, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think we're already starting to see how that climate change is shifting our production areas from where we traditionally knew that. So those aliens that landed at Benguela Cove, you and them have been having a whale of a time, enjoying some true South African pinotage examples. And they've invited you back with them into space. And they've asked you to bring 3 bottles of wine, any 3 wines. Which ones would you choose to take?
Oh, I hope those aliens have a lot of time, because getting me to decide on only 3 wines is kind of a tough task. Let me think of wines in the cellar or that I've recently enjoyed. So definitely they have to be a sparkling. Let's be fair and have non-South African wines. So I would select a Whiston, which is an English sparkling wine, 2015 Blanc de Blanc, which is arguably one of the best sparklings I've had worldwide. Let's take a white wine along. A favorite of mine for many years have been Smith Wort Lafite. It's a Bordeaux white blend, wine that I aspire to, so definitely one I'd like to take along and hopefully I don't have to share with them. And then a red, let's take a Trinity Hill Syrah, which is a cool climate New Zealand Syrah, which is quite exceptional. And if they're looking away and still fueling the spaceship, I might grab a bottle of Tawny and slip that in there secretly as well, a South African one.
Can I come? That sounds amazing. Okay, we're not quite finished yet. I'm going to play a little game with you. I'm going to name 3 varieties, and I'd like you to tell me which song or artist or even just a genre of music you would like to pair those with. So I think it would be fitting to start with Semillon.
Semillon. I would say Semillon has got a lot of finesse and purity and brightness to it, but it's also got a lot of structure and it's got a lot of power and layers. It's an amazing grape with low and high pitches and everything in between. So I would think an artist that kind of would relate to that would be Adele, maybe. Something strong, something powerful, but a beautiful side to it.
I can definitely see that working very, very well, that's for sure. Okay, Chardonnay.
Chardonnay, again, it's got volume, it's got richness, it's got focus. I'm trying to think of a real diva, which Chardonnay is. And although this is a male singer, but I guess kind of qualifies in the diva section, a true star and an icon like Chardonnay the grape. Let's go for someone like Elton John.
Certainly lots of glitz and glam there. That's a good one. Okay, let's go with Cabernet Sauvignon.
Cabernet Sauvignon, sure. Cabernet, structured, big. Well, not always big, but it's the king of reds. It's King Cab. Oh my goodness, who would we go for Cabernet Sauvignon? I think, because Cabernet can be elegant, but it's got shoulders, it's got muscle, it's got power. I don't know if you ever heard of an artist called LP, maybe. So lots of side to it, lots of different sides to the voice, to the artist. It's interesting, it's intriguing, it's world class, which is Cabernet.
Definitely one for me to look up on, LP. Thank you. Thank you for that little reference. I'll go and check it out next time I open a nice Stellenbosch cab as well. Johann, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really a pleasure speaking to you, getting to know a little bit more about you and Benguela Cove as well. Please, before we sign off, tell our listeners where they can find Benguela Cove online, your social media handles, and if they wanted to visit the estate, where will they find you?
Yeah, so benguelacove.co.za. As I said, we're just on the outside of Hermanus, so definitely worth a visit for all the reasons I've mentioned. Beautiful restaurant, soon we'll have some accommodation. You can check us out on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, all the normal social pages. And for those that are ever around, please reach out, please come and visit, please come and look me up. Benguela Cove is my life's work, my project. This is what I see myself doing and in the next 30, 40 years and beyond. So please come and visit and please come and see what we're about, what we're up to, and all the exciting things we've got up our sleeve.
Definitely try and see that sexy cellar with the chandeliers. Johann, thank you so much for your time, and thank you to our listeners.
Thanks for listening to a new episode of Wine Soundtrack South Africa. For details and updates, visit our website winesoundtrack.com.